Hi and welcome to the video tutorial on modeling with spreadsheets. Today we will learn about how to create pivot table and pivot chart. The data that I have selected for this is sales data. It has the following fields: order ID, order date, customer name, customer segment, order priority, product ID, product name, product category, product subcategory, sales amount, manager name, region and shipment mode. Now the first step I would like to do is to convert this data that we have into a table. So I press Ctrl A to select the whole data and then press Ctrl T to convert to table. Since my data has headers, I will ensure that this is ticked which says my table has headers. Click on OK. So right now the data has been converted to table. To insert a pivot table, you have two options. Either you can select the whole data, go to Insert tab and click on Pivot Table, or click anywhere inside this table. Since it's already a table, under Table Tools Designs, I have a field called Summarize with Pivot Table. So click on that. Now the table or the range that you've selected with the data will come here. I want the pivot table to be in the new worksheet rather than existing worksheet. So I ensure new worksheet is clicked here and I press OK. So this will be the area where the pivot table will be created, and the fields that you select to make the pivot table is given on the right here. So I first modify the date by a small bit. That is, if you see here, the date is given by day, but I want it by month. So what I would do is select any one date field, right click and say group. So here the grouping would give you start date, end date and by month. So ensure it's in the right field and click on months and say OK. So right now, since I only have data for January and February, that's why it's coming here. I would want order date to be a filter, so put it back in the filter. Inside the row, I first need customer segment followed by customer name. And then as my value, I require my sales amount. So I drag and drop sales amount and values. By default, it is sum that comes under value. I can change it by clicking on it, going to value field settings. And then in the summarize values by, I have sum, count, average, minimum, maximum. So select whichever is applicable for you. Now this view, I would like to change it. So what I do is in pivot table tools, I go inside design. Inside report layout, I put it in show in outline form. So I get in two separate fields as customer segment in column A and customer name in column B. So this is how a simple pivot table can be created. To create the pivot chart, click anywhere inside the pivot table. Go inside the pivot table tools tab, analyze, you have something called pivot chart. Now a pop-up will appear in which you can select whichever graph you want. Right now I want a clustered column. So I select a clustered column chart and say OK. So I can see that a pivot chart has been created here. Now again it is dynamic. You can filter your dates here. You can filter the customer segments here and you can filter the customer name here. So it's a dynamic chart which helps you analyze data as per the requirement. The second chart I would like to look at is manager info. So again, click anywhere inside the table, go to table tools design, summarize the pivot table, new worksheet. The rows that I would want is manager name and I would want it with respect to each region. So inside the column tab I put region. And the value that I would like to see is sales amount. So I drag and drop sales amount in value, and order date like before would be my filter. So again, this gives me each manager and the region allotted to him and the sales generated inside the region. To create the pivot chart now, I just click anywhere inside the pivot table, go to pivot table tools, analyze pivot chart and insert the chart that is required. So I will insert a bar chart now. So hence a pivot chart for giving me manager info with respect to region is obtained. Again here I can filter for the region, I can filter for the manager name and I can filter for the order date. In the next example, we will look at product-wise data. So click anywhere inside the table, go to table tools design and summarize with pivot table. So here, since I want the product name, I will insert product name inside row, order date will be the filter and sum of sales would be the value. So once I get this, using the same data, I can insert a pivot chart and I'm putting a clustered column chart. So now I want my product category and subcategory to be filtered. So I'll add them as slicer. So I right click on product category, add a slicer. Under slicer tool options, I change the color to orange and call it to 3. Now inside product subcategory again I want as a filter. So again right click product subcategory, add a slicer. To differentiate between the product category, I just change the color to green. Columns I've made 2. So here I have my slicers. Now slicers act as filters. For example, if I click on furniture tab, the data inside the pivot table and pivot chart will vary accordingly. Now inside product subcategory, if I click on bookcases, I have the product category furniture, product subcategory bookcases, products alone coming inside the pivot table and the pivot chart. The last example we will look at shipment information. So again, table tools, summarize with pivot table, click on OK. So now I want order ID as my filter, shipment mode as my row, and the column will be order priority. As usual, sum of sales would be my values. This gives me the shipment information with respect to the order priority, and I can just insert a pivot chart to represent this in a graphical form. So when we are creating dashboards, all you have to do is copy the pivot chart and put it on the dashboard, because as and when you change the filters, it will interact with the data and give you appropriate results. Thank you.